Abortion is turning out to be an election issue, despite Conservative leader Andrew Scheer promising not to revisit abortion laws. Scheer, of course, is personally anti-abortion, citing his faith. Well, now an anti-abortion group says Scheer promised them he would allow a free vote on any abortion legislation put forward in a private member's bill, for example. Scott Hayward is the co-founder and president of Right Now, and Mr. Hayward joins us in studio. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure. Why are you calling out Mr. Scheer now?
We did interviews with 11 of the 14 Conservative Party of Canada leadership candidates back in 2017. So, this information has been out there for almost 2.5 years. And Andrew was one of 11 who did those interviews. And the vast majority of those 11, including Andrew himself, said that, if a pro-life private member's bill were put forward, that it would be a free vote, that caucus would not be whipped, but that he, as Prime Minister and his cabinet, would not introduce pro-life legislation. So, this is the same stuff in those interviews that Maxime Bernier, Aaron O'Toole, Stephen Blaney, and lots of others amongst those 11 said as well. So it's a fairly, common belief and policy held amongst a lot of people within the Conservative Party of Canada.
He's already said he's not going to change the law. He's not going to revisit the issue whatsoever. So are you calling him out, hoping that something is going to change? And let's face it, in government, if they get the majority, they would also get the majority of votes. And chances are the Liberals and the NDP would not support reopening that as well. I mean, is it a lost cause already?
Well, we're focused on nominating and electing pro-life politicians, regardless of party affiliation. So at dissolution, which you expect to be later this month, of course, there will be 58 pro-life members of Parliament in the House of Commons. That's less than 20% of the seats. So in order for us to pass pro-life legislation, we need 50% plus one. Realistically, getting to that 50% plus one in this electoral cycle is probably not going to happen. We're focused on, of course, increasing the number there, but that remains our focus, is getting as many pro-lifers in the House of Commons as possible to vote for this legislation on a go-forward basis.
The majority of Canadians don't agree with you, according to the polls. Isn't the government in power supposed to reflect the feelings of the people?
Well, it's interesting because different polls say different things. When you look at a lot of polls out there and you ask Canadians, where they stand on sex-selective abortion, late-term abortion, things of this nature, the vast majority of Canadians aren't comfortable with those things. We actually did a poll in 2016 when we first launched, when we were going to the National March for Life, because we were new. We started in January 2016, so we wanted to have something out there. That poll came back with a lot of things that we kind of already knew. Different regions of Canadians were more pro-life than others. Typically, younger Canadians were more pro-life than older Canadians. Mm-hmm. But one thing that we found shocking in that poll was that 53% of those who voted NDP in 2015 and 49% who voted Liberal wanted some sort of legal restriction on abortion, whether it be sex-selective abortion or late-term abortion. So there's a big middle ground out there where the vast majority of Canadians are that need to be reflected in our law, because as a lot of people know, Canada's only one of 2 countries in the world that have no law whatsoever on abortion.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, but there's no gray area for you, because what you're talking about is a gray area here. The restrictions here, the restrictions there, you are either pro or against, and you are against abortion.
Well, if you go to our website, we have a section on our website of proposed pro-life legislation, both federally and provincially, that we think reflect the values of Canadians, the majority of Canadians, that would find broad cross-party support as well.
Like what?
Well, for example, like a ban on sex-selective abortion.
What does that mean?
So, in Canada, a lot of girls, preborn girls, are targeted in the womb simply the fact because they are girls, and they are aborted because of that.
How many? I don't know that practice exists.
I believe that there's a study out there from a couple of years ago that said in Canada there were about, over the course of 4 or 5 years, close to 5,000 girls that were targeted just because of that.
There are people who are putting an end to a pregnancy because of the gender. Why is that not a big story?
I don't know. You're in the media.
Where do you get those findings, though? You say a study. What does that mean?
Well, I don't have it on me, but afterward I can link it to you, and you guys can take a look at it.
Bigger picture, though, what I'm saying is that, there is a gray area here, but I don't think there's any gray area for you.
Well, we want to make sure that laws are passed that reflect the values of Canadians, particularly on our issue. To go from having absolutely no law whatsoever into some sort of law, there is a big middle ground there that I think that an organization, a lot of other pro-life organizations out there in Canada today, think that there would be broad, political support on.
Where did you come to this conclusion for your own being anti-abortion? Where did this come from?
Well, when I was younger, I grew up in a very pro-life family, and then, I being born in the 90s, of course, you grew up in a very secular environment. And so what I wanted to do was, if I want to successfully argue this issue, I need to look at the science of the issue. And then when I delved into the science of the issue, the embryology, the biology of it, it became very clear to me personally that the science of behind when life begins, and the defense of it, and the extension of human rights to preborn girls and boys, to me was very simple, and that's what got me into it.
You say pro-life, I would imagine you're also religious, raised very religiously. Are you a Catholic?
Yeah, I come from a practicing Catholic family, a practicing Catholic myself.
So let me ask you this question. Do you think that religion trumps human rights, the right to choose?
Well, I think that the preborn girls and boys that are in the womb, the science behind it is that they are clearly human beings in early stages of development, and the fact that they are human beings in early stages of development, human rights should be extended to them.
Human rights should be extended. So you see the human rights extended to the womb as opposed to a woman's right to choose.
I think that the right to life is a very important right. If we want to talk about rights in general, it's very difficult to have other rights if you don't have a right to life. And I think there are a lot of policies and laws out there that can both, protect preborn girls and boys, as well as to support women.
Out of curiosity, are you anti-gay marriage or pro-gay marriage?
For our organization, that's not an issue. Our organization is focused. Well, I think personally, it doesn't really reflect, what we're here discussing today as well. Our organization is solely focused on the issues of abortion and assisted suicide.
Let me ask you this question: if you have children one day and they turn out to be gay, and they say, "Dad, will you come to my wedding?" Would you go?
I think that's something that needs to be discussed between. Just got recently engaged, my fiance and myself. But in regards to the election coming up, we're focused on nominating and electing as many pro-life politicians as possible that are pro-life when it comes to the issues of abortion and assisted suicide.